Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here because we have a special guest. I think he'll know after this because the more I see these guys come through, there's little things that make them stand out. And this, my guest, he is diligent in his education when it comes to martial arts, when it comes to the art of war, if you will. He has a fight coming up this weekend. If you have the chance, go watch him. He will be 2-0, currently 1-0. My guest, Ollie.
What's up,
I
guys?
forgot your last name.
Mace.
Mace, that's it. I was like, Ollie, it's not there. Shit.
Yep.
Ollie, thanks for being here, man.
Of course, brother. Thank you for having me.
Now, when I wanted to put that in the intro because I noticed, you came on my radar.
Yes.
When you won the jiu-jitsu tournament?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you, just from clips, I was like, this kid's annihilating these other kids. Like, did you win all five? 5 fight?
I've done 2 jiu-jitsu tournaments competitively, and both of them I've never even been scored on.
You never been scored on?
No.
Well, there you go. So I saw that.
But there are better guys out there, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a belt level type thing.
You humble
So,
motherfuckers.
I'm trying, man.
all of us out there in glory. But I say that because then it led to your first fight. And I remember seeing, I think it was the actual, like, whoever put on the fight, the promotion.
Yes.
They were like, listen to these sounds.
Yeah.
And I just hear you and whoever the other kid was just exchanging. And I was like,
man.
I got to talk to this kid immediately, right?
Yeah.
And so then the next day I walk in, I go back to Glory. I'm like, I'm back. Everything's stable. I can finally train with you guys again. And after class, you were with Coach Jeff, right?
Yes.
And you had a pen and you had a notebook.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
And that thing was full.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just like chicken scratch notes or anything. It was like full.
Yes.
And I'm sitting here thinking, like, the idea that, and how old are you?
I just turned 20 a couple months ago.
Just turned 20,
Yes.
right? The baby of the fight team.
Yeah. I'm the youngest kid on the fight team.
Who is also the most, deliberate. Because it wasn't like, oh, I'm here for 5 minutes. Because I stayed after.
Yeah.
And you were the last one out with Gomi. Like, we were all the last ones out. So you stayed, right? You took notes for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like detailed. And you were like, listen, I need, and then I saw you talking to the partner that you were with in class.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember his name, but you were asking him questions. He was giving you, no, he's going to do this and anticipate, and you're strategic in the way that you strategize the fight.
Yes.
And that's so, at your age, that's incredible. Like,
Yeah.
you should know that people just like, I'm going to go in there and, like, do that. I'm like, no. Like, he will win. Like, there's the different mindset. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't know if you know this, but that outfit is sick.
I appreciate it,
Like,
brother. I try, man.
It's not meant to sound like an insult, and it's not at all. I'm just saying you look like the actual legitimate Jake Paul. Like if he was a legitimate fighter, he'd look and have this attitude. And it's just like, I'm excited to have you. And
I'm excited to be here.
So, and it's a look. It looks good. It looks pretty nice.
Yeah, I'm,
Is
I always try to make myself look nice.
Is this a vibe?
Yeah, man, this is
sick.
one heck of a setup. A lot more than I was expecting, to be honest with you.
Really?
I've been in, some studios before, and it wasn't this nice, bro. This is really nice.
Clip that. We're going to clip that. We're going to clip that. We're going to post it. We're going to put it on the internet. We're going to span the internet. But what's your background? So you mentioned wrestling?
Yeah, so I was, I think, 2nd grade, and my dad was a pretty accomplished wrestler in high school and even did a little bit of D1 wrestling in college. And I was always, raised into a wrestling family. It wasn't a basketball family. It wasn't a football family. And I was one of the only wrestling families in town. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I grew up in a small town outside of St. Louis, and, there was just no wrestling for me. And so my whole life I was, I was kind of going off and on with wrestling through 8th grade. And once I got to high school, I was on a really good team my freshman year. And like that kind of put it in perspective for me, because I say it time and time again, you know, what I got the most out of with wrestling wasn't the physical attributes. It wasn't the slick takedowns I have. It wasn't the, you know, top pressure. It wasn't, you know, those are all great. I love having, you know, good attributes like that. But the mentality of a wrestler, of a good wrestler, especially a wrestler that has had to overcome adversity, it in my opinion is what kind of sets me, you know, sometimes ahead of other kids my age, you know, because that mentality is, people don't understand that combat sports, it's 90% mental sometimes, you know, it's 100% mental sometimes.
And we were talking also about like body, like me and Steven was in here, right, Heston?
Of course.
And go check that episode out when it goes live. It literally changed my life. Like
Heston he's something else, man. He's a genius.
So you have people like him walking around, right, who can give you advice.
He's the one who I go to advice to about my notes. You know, I'm like, hey, Heston, look at this. What do you think?
Is this good notes? Is this even good?
Yes. Does this measure to your standards?
Right. And he's like, actually, it's
no. Then he'll I have my stupid little notebook, and then he'll pull out his phone and he'll go to he'll show me links on his notes, and then he'll show links to the videos on the notes, and I'm over here like, man,
I'm
he's doing more than me.
This is Stone Age. I have paper.
Yeah, but exactly. But sometimes, like for me, it's like if I can write it down, like if I can do that physical action of writing something down, I'm almost more inclined to remember it than if I type it.
Yeah, it feels like the same with me. Like when I go to do the things I need to do per episode, it's like if I put it in my phone, it's like, but if I write with an ink pen, like. It's like chisel and stone. You know what I mean? It's like the 100%. It's like the 10 Commandments.
100%. Yeah.
And I want to get back to your mentality, because I noticed that whether it's, you know, Gomi or whether it's some of these guys who have a background in wrestling, there's something different about even like an exchange with like a word exchange. It's something simple like, I'm gonna try for this, and it's just like there's a switch that's like you can. It's like it's like not in a negative like I'm better, but it's just like there's a different mindset of like it's great to have in an octagon, because you're like, this guy across from me has got nothing. He has nothing for me, right? You know what I mean?
100%.
And like you said, that's a majority of this. Like when we were talking about body language, things that you do, right? Like me and Steven were talking about, even if it, you know, it's like a shark to water. You know, maybe if you get, I remember my first liver kick. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody does.
And I'm like,
everybody
it
does.
Immediately, like, oh, God, right? Like, thank you, Gomi. And
he loves attacking that liver.
He does. And it wasn't, you know, I had gotten, you know, I gotten the motion of the blocks down.
Yes.
But not down the middle. He goes, let's put a teep right there. And I remember it was just like, boom. And then I dropped and I felt it. And I remember I'm sitting here with Heston, and he's like, you know, it's just like, if you can control that, that's controlling the emotion, part of that part of the brain when you're in there, right? So not only can you know, I've never been in there, but what was it like for your first fight?
My first fight,
because this is after.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like I want to know what it feels like after.
Yeah. So going into that fight, it's a funny story. I had just gotten out of college wrestling season, probably like a month and a half before. And I, you know, just had kind of decided that wrestling, I had a higher ceiling in MMA than I did in wrestling.
Absolutely.
And I also, you know, I love punching people in the face. It's like, it brings me, you know, pleasure to punch somebody in the face.
I mean, let's be honest. Violence does feel good.
Yeah, violence is great if you do it in a controlled setting and do it, you know, with a set of rules.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I decided that I didn't want to wrestle anymore. You know, had a great relationship with the team, still best friends with a lot of my teammates.
That's good. It's really great to have that.
And like I said, having those guys around, it's always a, you know, great thing for my mentality as well. But I was still in good shape, and my friend Justin Thacker, he trains at our gym as well. We were training for his fight, and it was his first fight. And I think, about a month out, his ear started to get all cauliflowered up. And it progressively got worse. And we tried to kind of like, you know, be as careful with it as we could.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you're a month out, I mean, that's still 3 hard weeks of sparring.
Yeah.
You know, that's still, I mean, that's a majority of your camp.
It's a fight camp.
Exactly.
Fight camp.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's,
Fight camp.
It's pretty much a whole camp. And for an amateur at least.
Right.
And it just kept getting worse and kept getting worse and kept getting worse. And one day, I don't know where I was, but I wasn't there, and he rolled over on his ear while he was rolling, and it just blew up. Dude. Yeah, it was bad. He had to, so he's a tough guy, man. He got a surgery and still was like, man, I want to fight. I want to do this. And me and Trey were like, okay, man, like, I guess.
He's a Glory? He trains at Glory with us?
Yep, he trains at Glory. And he was like, man, I still got to fight, da-da-da-da. And then it came open again. And that's when we were like, that's when the doctor pretty much told him, like, dog, it's just not going to happen. Like, you would seriously ruin your ear. And so that was, I think, 10 days before. And I remember he texted me that he was dropping out of the fight. And, you know, it's after school. It's actually the first day school gets out of college.
Right.
And I remember, like, you know, I was enjoying myself, you know, as a college student does. But I remember before I cracked my first beer, I was like, wait a minute. Justin just dropped out of this fight. Maybe Trey's going to text me.
No.
So I sat it down, and I didn't touch it. And Trey texted me like an hour later and was like, hey, man, like, fight's in 10 days. Would you want to take it on 10 days notice? 155. Yeah, it wasn't even a question. I was like, absolutely, man. I don't care who it is. Dude. I don't care who it is. I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna wreck him. And didn't know much about this kid. Watched the fight, his first fight once. He looked good in his first fight. I didn't realize how big he was. And so that's I'm a 45er, but I have the build where I could be a 55er if I wanted to be. Like, I'm not small for a 55er. Right. You know, I'm lean right now, so it's like I can make 45. Right. So at the time I was weighing like 175 pounds, and I was still in good shape. You know, I remember the morning after Trey told me, my big concern was, hey man, like, you know, I haven't been in camp. Like, I'm worried about my cardio, da-da-da-da. And then him and I, like, we went through 3 wars of rounds. And, you know, him mainly just beating me up. Yeah. That's how it goes. Yep. He's a dog. And I remember we got done with 3 rounds, and he was like, you went 3 5-minute rounds with me, you know, fighter who's in the UFC. You can go with any amateur. Right. You know, for 9 minutes if you need to. Absolutely. And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, send me the papers. I'll sign whatever. Like, I'll cut the weight. We got it to be at a catch weight bout at 160, which, stupid on me, man. I know I could have cut more weight because it was an advantage for the other guy because, man, whenever we went in the weigh-ins, looked him in the eyes, we had some little trash talk in between us. Yeah. And I knew it as soon as I looked in his eyes. I'm like, I'm a better man than this guy is. Oh, for sure. And so I was all confident in my head. And, yeah, the next day comes around. Felt good in the morning whenever we did the shakeout. Went to the arena. It's kind of like before a fight, it's almost strange how free your mind is. It's almost strange how, like, you know, you're thinking about the fight. Yeah. But you're almost in a spot where you're not, because you're thinking about one thing, you're not thinking about, you know, anything else around you. Nothing else is there.
Like,
you
just honed in on
no distractions. This. Right. You have no, I mean, like, at least for me in my experience, I don't know about other people or, you know, how they prepare, but in my experience, you know, that hour, 2 hours where you're getting your hands wrapped and you're warming up and, you know. How was that? Were you, I mean, you just like, this is it. It was literally one of those things where it's like, wow, I've envisioned this moment almost obsessively every minute of every day for nearly a year and a half that I've been training. Like,
Yeah.
this is it. You know, it's either do or die, bro. Like,
Right.
you talk the talk. Like, it's time to walk the walk. And
Literally walk the walk.
literally walk the walk. Like, and so, yep, that's what I did. I walked the walk. I came out really, and it's a trait of mine that I used to really struggle with it. Now I feel like I've really gotten a control out of, but old habits shown in my first fight, it's common.
Mm-hmm.
My first couple seconds, I came out and I just went really, really hard, and I dropped him at first, and then he hit me really hard, and then I came after him, and I got the takedown, and he got really deep on an Anaconda choke. And I mean, I think everybody in that arena probably thought I was going to sleep.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like,
you're like, nope.
I just remember, like, I remember the first thought in my mind whenever I got in that choke. I was like, of course you're in this situation right now. Of course you're in this hectic situation right now. I was just thinking, I was like, man, you have so many people at home watching you. You have so many friends, so many people that you've heard, you know, that have heard you talk about this. Like, you can't, like, you're going to sleep, man. You're going to sleep.
Dummy.
You're not going to tap in front of your father. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to happen. And he thought he must be a stupid man if he thought I was going to tap, because I was not. I was going out before I was tapping, and I didn't go out. Don't know how I didn't go out, but I didn't go out. Got out of the choke, and then from there it was like, you know, I knew it. It was, I could feel it.
Well, I mean, he's probably squeezing. He's probably
broken.
Exhausted. He's like, it didn't work. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, he was. After that, it was like I could feel it. Like, my wrestling was too much for him, and
he probably expected easy food.
yes. And after he realized, he's like, man, I just like did everything I could with this kid on the ground, and I'm done.
Right.
I don't remember the second, like, in between the first and the second round, because your adrenaline, like, it's high and you get hit in the head, so you're kind of a little woozy. And apparently Trey was just saying, like, I remember Trey came up and said one thing. He said, you can wrestle fuck this kid. Like, it's not gonna, like, just go out there for 3 rounds and wrestle him, dude.
Right.
Like, and I because at the time, with my development, I still was kind of just a stupid wrestler. You know, I was a striker who had heavy hands, but I wasn't necessarily. I wasn't what I am now.
Trey taught me where to put the punch, like, not where to put the punch, like, physically, but like the percentage of where the punch needs to be.
Yes.
40, 60, 70. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, exactly. There's so much that I've learned since my last fight, technically, that I've really improved on, because at the time I was just a stupid wrestler, and so he wanted me to just wrestle all 3 rounds, and I don't remember this, but I told him, I was like, nah, I broke this kid, like, I'm gonna kill him, like, I'm gonna knock him out, like, I'm gonna kill him,
right?
And because I could see it in his eyes, you know, like, you look at somebody and you can tell they don't want to be there.
Yeah, they're like.
And so I got up off the stool, and I was a happy little kid, man. I started jumping around and smiling, pointing at the ground. And
dude, that probably, he was already broken, but that just shattered.
That shattered him. I saw it in his eyes. And just walked across the cage, 4 seconds in the second round, and 1 punch knockout. I mean, it was.
I remember seeing that, and I'm like, you could just tell the difference between the both of you.
Yeah.
And it's very clear after. You know what? I saw it when I first went to FAC and watched Gomi. I did it when I watched, all the guys like Lucas, Gomi, Nick, like everyone I watched kind of come up. It's always like, if the first round is kind of tough, right? That first fight, second fight, round 2, it's different.
Exactly.
It's like you be like, oh, Glory training kicked in. I fight at Glory. It's like, this is nothing. We do 5-minute rounds, dude.
Well, the thing is that a lot of times, you can be what's known as a slow starter. You could just have a bad round. I personally, after I like got on the canvas and I was wrestling him, I was like, it didn't even become a spectator sport. It didn't become like, it was just like, it felt like it was me in the room with a guy who wanted to beat me. Right. It was no different than that. And that is why I'm really blessed that I get to fight in the same arena this time around, because I feel like it's going to just be like, oh, I've done this before, Right. I've made this walk before in front of this crowd in this cage.
And something else that you also just said is that, right, maybe the first fight you feel like, I can improve this. I do have a wrestling background. I can always lean back on it. But you're like, no, I'm not going to do that.
No.
I'm going to take these notes. I'm going to learn at this high fucking level, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put the time in. I'm going to it's something that's I think I like this comparison, if I can
Go ahead.
say it properly. This metaphor is like there's a mentality where, like, if you analyze like you do, you take notes, even if you reflect after sparring or the rounds, and you're like, I didn't really quite do that, right? You can get stuck in this, like, point where you just get stuck that you can never fix it. You're like, oh, that's just my bad side, and you just leave it as a bad side. And I'm like, no. All these guys who are technicians, and they this is their life, this is everything they do, this is what brings them joy, and they hold up this, like, mirror, right? And then any insecurity that they feel from that round or from that, you can go to Trey, you can go to Jeff, and you can go, hey man, I see this, you see this, like, I need to be better than this insecurity that I would have and try and bring in the octagon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of
and
course.
and it doesn't scare you, the mirror doesn't shatter, you're just, it's me and me, you know what I mean? Like, it's you and that guy over there.
But no,
also
it really is. Like, it's because your mind can take, only so much, but your body can take so much more. That's what a lot of good coaches I've had have said. They say, like, I know it hurts. Like, I know it really sucks. I know it feels like you can't lift your arms for this round. Or I know it feels like you can't hand fight any longer. Or I know it feels like you can't take another shot. But you can. Your mind is just blocking, it's saying, no, like, this hurts. Don't do it. I don't want you to do it. And once you get past that barrier of, all right, I can beat my mind now.
Right.
Because, I mean, it happens in all aspects of life, and, like, sometimes in school I'll be like, oh, God, I don't want to do this. I want to go train.
Right.
Screw this. Like, this is stupid. But then, like, I have to tell myself, I'm like, no, get it done. And then you can go train.
The little, and I think that's also, like, that thought is thinking ahead.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Like, it's not just like, and that's something that I'm kind of glad that I get to put this on and tell people that, like, even someone who's only had one fight, right? Who, like, that it's the moment, right?
Yep.
But even then, you're still not just like the stereotypical person. Most of the guys that I see that are going there, it took a long time. It took a lot of dedication, a lot of, did I say time? Yeah, a lot of time in the gym.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just
Trey
like,
won't give you a fight if you don't train, which I completely respect, and I like that.
And it's also on Glory's tag. If they throw you in there, you know what I mean?
They expect you to compete, and
boom, you get dropped right away. It's like, oh, I guess he wasn't ready. And then next, I mean, it's on them. It's on you. They feel bad because they put you in there. You know what I'm saying? And he's very diligent about that, right? Like, and he's also, like, one of the people that use those same. It's like I use martial arts and the ideas that we craft and the things that we learn in the gym, and it's like I put them on a flash drive and I take it with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can take it everywhere I go, whether it's at that job or it's I don't want to edit that thing right now. I want to, like, play my PlayStation or something just for a little bit. And you're like, no. Look what you got. Like, all of this is just from martial arts, right?
Yeah.
Now, I found out that, like, so I wanted to get in there. You know what I'm saying? And I was there. I dedicated a ton of time. I was there for like a year and a half. And I wasn't saying I was bad. Wasn't saying I was good, right? You guys can be the judge of that when I go back, right? But something that, like, not broke me, but, like, broke this idea was that, like, I need to be in here to prove, like, myself wrong and be better. Like, I'm not in the wrong by being here. You know, like, it's like, why am I here? It made me ask myself, why am I here right now? Why am I doing these hard rounds? Why am I doing this? And it's like, if it's not to be the best, it's like, then like, what are you wasting time? Could you funnel that somewhere else? Can you use it as a supplement in your life? So it's kind of like, it helped me establish what I like, what I want to do, and how hard it was going to be to start up. So like doing this studio, like, the story is, I'll tell you off air, is fucking bonkers. Like, everything that could have gone wrong that I couldn't have no control wrong, out the window,
Well,
right?
That's how the best things in life go. You know,
And the
trial
simplest.
and error.
Well, it was so simple. I just had to talk to this
Yeah.
thing up here, and I go, just keep going. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I'm just like, I keep going like, there's no way. There's
Yeah.
no way. And then all I have to say is like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Like, keep going.
Mhm.
But like, I had to develop this toughness in the gym with you guys. And so anything that comes out of any kind of success that you seek anywhere comes from, one, you understanding yourself, the mirror method, as I call it.
Yep.
Like being able to look at yourself and be, I'm not complete, but there's holes that I can fill. But if I fix them, then I can be better than I am yesterday. Like I was talking to Heston about the Matthew McConaughey. He's like, he won an award, and he was like, oh, my idol is me 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? He goes, and then you ask me 10 years, what's my next one? He goes, it's me 10 years from now. He's like, I'm chasing me my entire life to be better. And it's like, without adversity, you don't get anything, right? And then also, if there was no adversity, you wouldn't enjoy the sweet taste of victory. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Of course, bro.
So, I mean,
like I've said,
you got what adversity? Like, you mentioned adversity earlier in the episode. Like,
yeah. So my whole high school career was pretty much just, I don't want to say a waste. In terms of like my wrestling career, but like I because I was still, getting stuff done. I mean, yeah, it was just my freshman year. I was on a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a little kid, bro. Like, I mean, I hadn't, grown up to be had to grow a man's body. Like I was just a kid. Like it was like if I were to have stepped on like the high level varsity match, like the state tournaments my freshman year, I would have got my ass kicked. But I transferred schools after my freshman year, and like I was a good wrestler like my whole life. So like even though like I wasn't necessarily like, built to be like a good wrestler, I was still I was still a good wrestler because I've been doing it for most of my life.
Is that because of the family background?
Yeah.
The family.
I mean, I wrestled from 2nd through like 5th grade, and then like I started wrestling in 8th grade again. So I had like 4 years of wrestling experience. But like, still, like my dad always had wrestling meets on when we were growing up. Like, me and there was always wrestling like somehow.
How many brothers do you have? Brothers?
I just have one brother, and he's not a wrestler. I
come from a wrestling family. Oh, who else is wrestling?
He was a wrestler, and he just didn't stick with it. Really athletic kid, but just didn't stick with it. But yeah, I transferred schools because all my other friends were at another school, and I didn't care about wrestling as much as I probably should have. And transferred schools, and the Missouri High School Athletics Association or whatever, they have a rule where you have to wait 365 days after you transfer to compete in all varsity athletics. So because I was a transfer, I had to give my whole sophomore season up varsity. That's because I was a transfer. But the reason that it makes sense whenever you think about it, because the reason they did it or they do it is because it helps with like recruiting.
I see.
Because it's like, like if that wasn't a rule, you would have so many like big high schools like, hey, like,
hey, come over
here.
Yeah, I got something for you.
I got money. Like, I'll give you money to go here.
Right.
But yeah. Unfortunately that's not the way it is, so I had to sit out a year my sophomore season. And my junior year I was like, okay, I have 2 years, I'm really gonna start like working at this, and I did. I worked hard for what I thought was working hard at the time. You know what I'm saying? I was still a 16-year-old kid, so I didn't really understand like the day in the day out grind of being a wrestler.
Right.
And like some kids do. Some kids understand that at like a much earlier age. Some kids understand that, you'll see them as little kids and their parents just instill in them like, stay after practice, be the last one at practice, be the first one there,
Right.
And like, but my parents were never like that, because even though like we're a wrestling family and, they pushed me to wrestle, it was never like your whole life has to be wrestling, Right. It was just do it because you love it. Do it because you're good at it.
That's the best way to parent.
Exactly. 100%. That's the way I'll parent my kids. I mean, I'm going to push them to wrestling, but if they don't want to wrestle anymore, and all right.
Well, I did the same thing with my kiddo. He's 8.
Yeah.
And he wanted to. Like, I was already training. So, let's see. I was training for he'd come in, probably a year at least I've been training. So, he'd see me do MMA, he'd see me do striking, and then he'd see me do the MMA rounds. And he wanted, for like a year straight, he would always come in like once a week with me on like a Saturday or something. And I didn't push him to like, you know, oh, go do the kids class, right? I wasn't going to throw him in there.
It's just like, hey, if you want to do it, do it.
Yeah, and then like months later, he goes, I want to try it. I'm like, okay, try it. And then he got in there, and he thought it was just going to be play. Yeah. And I'm like, no, this is like martial arts. Like, it's a different thing. Yeah. He's like, so not wrestle? I go, no, we can try wrestling, though.
Yeah, we could try wrestling.
And he just never brought it back up, you know? Yeah. And that's just what you have to do. Like, you can't have this kid be the other, oh, that's a piece of me, which, I mean, it is, but, like, they're also a entirely separate creation.
Exactly.
So whatever whatever they draw to, like let them go there, right?
Exactly.
Your job is just to set up the situation in the manner that they can experience whatever they have to experience from that situation.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're 20 and you know that already, right? It's just insane.
Yeah. My dad was one of the biggest role models in my life. So, you know, him and my mom, they were both just great about doing that. But yeah, after my sophomore year, I was like, all right, I'm going to start working. I'm going to start really, because I could feel like I was good at it. I had always been told by coaches that I had a lot of natural talent. I just needed, not necessarily to work harder because I was always at practice. It was just like that I needed to do this year round if I wanted to be like high level.
At the top.
Yeah. And I kind of did that in between my sophomore and junior year. I was going to I like I said, lived in a small town. My wrestling team had like 7 or 8 guys on it.
That's it?
And my drill partner, my whole high school career was, 120 pounds yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so not dissing him, he was a savage.
No. Yeah, they are.
He was a stud, bro.
Dude.
But yeah, so I, had to go into St. Louis to get some extra work. So that's what I was doing. I was going into a Perler room, which is like the best like wrestling like academy teaching that you can really get in the Midwest. It's probably the best in the nation. I mean, it's really highly lauded. Like it's like you'll look at like the national tournament for wrestling every year, and there'll usually like be like advertisements from them, and it's really cool. And it's a really good program. But I didn't like driving 45 minutes. I would love to do it now, but it's different time.
Right.
So junior year comes, I feel good. I know some more stuff. I've been working kind of hard, but not like as hard as I should be. I was still like, being a little junior in high school. And
I get that.
Man,
yeah. I remember being 16 and I'm like, I'm dumb.
I was a screw up.
I'm dumb, dude.
Yeah, literally. I so far from my life getting figured out back then. But yeah, my junior year comes, wrestling season's going good. We're like 2 weeks in, and we're like 2 weeks away from our first tournament. And I was deadlifting in class, and I tweaked my back, or so I thought. And me being the tough kid that I am, I was just like, no, like I'm not hurt.
Right.
This couldn't happen.
No,
because I'm not. I don't. That's the thing. I don't really get. Like in my life, I can count on a single hand the number of injuries I've had. So I didn't really think I was hurt necessarily, but I thought like, something's wrong.
I tweaked it.
So nothing serious.
Yeah.
And so then I went to practice, and I remember there's this move called the power half Nelson. I'm sure you've learned it at Glory, actually. Maybe it. Trey just has started teaching it, and
I've probably been put in it actually.
I did that. All the people that have done a power half, exactly what I'm talking about. I did that. I was on top, and whenever I did that, instead of taking one of my legs out, I kept both legs laced in. And when I did that, it just caused so much pressure on my back that I just heard like 2 big like pops.
Oh.
And I mean, I'm telling you, it was one of the worst pains of my life. Like I literally like couldn't walk. And I remember we didn't, my parents also being stubborn, tough people. They were like, you're fine. Let's just give it like a week.
You're like
no need to go into a specialist. It'll be okay. And I was like, okay. And of course, like you know, we don't go on vacations a lot, but that was, of course, we go on a family vacation that year to San Francisco, which is the hilliest city in the nation, I swear to God.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the nickname.
literally, man. And I was literally sitting there like, just like unable to get up the hills. And that's whenever they were finally like, okay, we got to go get checked out. Got checked out. Two or three of my vertebrae were like stress fractured. So I was pretty much done for the whole year. And I came back with like a week and a half to 2 weeks left of the season. Not advised by the doctor. Story of my life. Not advised by the doctor. Just was like, screw it. And yeah, I went in the district tournament, and we were in a really competitive district that year. And I was wrestling at 152. And another little bit of adversity I had to go through was I was still walking around at like 170 pounds. Like I was arguably heavier back then than I was now. And when I came back, I thought that my spot at 160 would be there because I was, you know, the best guy on the team.
Right.
And my coach, he had a bone to pick with me or something. He got fired later on, but like he wouldn't let me wrestle 60. He wouldn't even let me wrestle off for it, which is traditionally what you do in high school or college. Like you wrestle off for the spots. Whoever's winning, you know, whoever wins,
right,
amongst all of the
develops that mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
Of like, I want to be
competition, and he wouldn't let me do that. And so he made me cut all the way down to 52. So I was wrestling at like the most competitive weight class in the state.
Oh my
and
gosh,
I had only had like 2 weeks going like into this tournament, biggest tournament of my life. Never wrestled varsity in my life up to that point.
Coach, I just fractured my back.
Yeah, literally. Exactly.
Twice
and so I had to cut all that weight. I could barely even walk cutting all that weight. Like it was tough on my mental. I really went into that tournament. I was really not expecting to do well. And I did pretty well. It's heartbreaking. I was literally 1 point away from qualifying for state on 2 weeks of practice. And I literally lost my bubble match that year 1-0. 1-0. One escape or something stupid like that.
You were
that moment was the a very pivotal moment for me, because what that told me was if I would have put in extra work, if I would have been working as hard as everybody else said I should have been working, it wouldn't be a 1 point. Like I would have that 1 point. I would have 2 points. I would have 3 points. It wouldn't be a 1-0 match.
If
I would rather lose, 6-2 or 6-4. I'd rather lose a match of more points, but showing that I did something. A 0-1 match just shows I didn't have the offense to take that kid down, and the reason for that was because I wasn't working hard enough.
Right.
And so after that, I started working day in, day out. I transformed my mentality. It was I needed to, but you know, during that time I was going through a lot at home, and you know, some stuff happened legally, and I was just in a really, you know, I was in a bad spot for a kid at 17 to be in.
Yeah.
And so I had to really claw out of that hole. And yeah, I even kind of took some time away from home. I spent 3 weeks out in the desert.
But hold on. Are you talking
the literal desert? I'm telling you, and even crazier, I was out there, and I decided, I was like, you know what, man, I wonder why I've never done fight. Why have I never tried to fight? I've always wanted to fight since I was a little kid. And so I came back, and immediately as soon as I got back, I started my senior year. I went to this MMA gym, 25 minutes away from my house, and one of the coaches there was a D1 wrestler once upon a time, and him and I got really close, and he kind of was my coach through my whole senior year. He was, you know, really more of a coach than I'd ever had up to that point. Because, you know, I had some good high school coaches, but none of them had really, taken time to be like, you're special, man. I see it in you. You know, I see you can be good. You just have had a horrible, string of luck and a horrible, you know, situation to be put in. So he really, did a good job and helped me out there. And that's how I got started training MMA. You know, every day after practice, I would go to practice from 3 to 5. It was a 2-hour long practice, which is in my eyes, just too long for like a wrestling practice to go. Like in college, we would do college wrestling practices. Sometimes they'd be less than an hour and a half. Because and that's how it is at Glory a lot of times. 2 hours, like you're drilling for an hour and 40 minutes. It's like you don't want to. Nobody wants to drill for an hour and 40 minutes every day.
I mean, they're also like that's like understandably, like when I came in, there was no cardio. There was no. I didn't have a wrestling background, so that was like the moment you're talking about, the 1 and the 0. That 0, and like I need to work harder. It was like
exactly.
When it goes above the date and the time, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we have extra time. I remember Trey saying all the time, and I go like this. I go, it's one of those days. Like I'm gonna be pushed to a limit that I haven't hit before. So
no, man, it's
not every day.
And it just goes back to that like mental barrier thing that we were talking about. How like you've just got to tell yourself like you're gonna be okay.
Well, and the like something that and you have, how are your parents, right? They support you in this and they're there for you.
They've been. It took my mom a little bit of catching on at first, but once she saw me, once she saw like the first fight and everything, she was there. She was in the crowd. Like she got hooked pretty quickly because she loves watching wrestling. So it's like
that's my Ollie.
Yeah, it's not that different, So but I started training MMA my senior year, and then had a really good senior season, a lot better than I was anticipating. And talked to my parents and talked to my coach, and we all agreed that it might be my best move to wrestle in college. But the reason I was wrestling in college was because I wanted to pursue MMA eventually. It was never I'm going to wrestle in college because I want to be a successful college wrestler. And all my college wrestling friends will tell you that.
Does that come from? Did you watch UFC growing up? Like, did you watch
a little bit? I was just like always just really drawn to fighting, violence, all of it growing up. Like I would always ask my parents. I mean, I was a little kid asking my parents if I could like take boxing classes or something, but they wouldn't let me because they were like, oh, like you'll get hit in the face. Like we don't want that. Like just stick to wrestling. Just do wrestling. Yeah. And then like once I was like 17, 18, I'm like, screw you guys. Like I'm doing this. Like sorry, it's my choice now.
Yeah, you're like, he's got the pads. I already signed up for the class.
Yeah, like sorry guys. But yeah, went to college, had a great year learning more wrestling in college. And then after that, I was like, I love wrestling, but I think it would be more beneficial for my career in the long run to start training full time now, you know, because I feel like I already have enough of a wrestling base to where like my wrestling has improved significantly just going to Glory since I've quit wrestling. And that, that to me just shows me like, like I would be learning a lot in a college wrestling room, but like if I can improve my wrestling and improve everything else, I would rather do that than just improve my wrestling.
Right.
Because like, in wrestling season, man, I would barely have time to make it into Glory more than 2 or 3 nights a week.
Right. And that's not going to do for the fight team. You know what I'm saying? They were like, no.
Well, at that time I wasn't. Because I started going in like a year ago. At that time, I wasn't necessarily on the fight team. I was just like, I was good work for them because I was a talented wrestler. But they knew I was an in-season college wrestler, and Trey knew that, so he knew I wasn't like able to come every day. He understood.
Okay, cool.
And then like I asked Trey one day. Trey was the last guy that I needed to ask what I should do. And I remember I'd been like meditating on it for probably like a couple weeks because it was right after college wrestling season. I was like, man, like should I ask Trey, like, well, I wonder what he's gonna say, and then
about fighting.
And then I was gonna ask him like, Trey, like what do you think or coach, what do you think it would be better for me to do? Would it be better for me to stick around in college wrestling and stick to just grinding in here every once in a while, or do you think it would be better for my career to quit wrestling and go fight? And he looked at me and he said, what do you enjoy more? And I said, well, I enjoy fighting more. And he said, there's your answer. I was like, he was like, do you want to fight? I'm like, yeah. I was like, of course I do. He's like, then, wrestling, you've done it your whole life.
I'm shocked. Like he's really good at those simple little, like, what do you like more? You're like, oh, I've already asked myself that. I know
a million times, but because my coach is saying it to me, and I look up to that individual so much, it's like, okay, you're right. What do I like more, coach?
Well, Who was the coach that you said really said like you're special? I took the time with you.
It was
that coach.
Yeah, it was. His name was Dalton Voiles, and his dad Benny Voiles. Those two were really pivotal in me telling myself I could do it, because it was a small gym outside of St. Louis in a small place called Pacific, Missouri. You probably never heard of it.
Not even close to the Pacific.
Nope, not even close. Also, Missouri most unoriginal town names. Anyways, yeah. So I started training out there, and I remember, like, one of my first days in there. And this, I'm telling you, man, like, that gym was almost built in the Stone Ages. I mean, it was great people that worked there, but like, I mean, some of the sparring sessions that we would have, I would come out of it. I don't even want to know how many concussions I got, like, sparring there.
Right. Just from
sparring.
Right.
Because, like, what you would do is, like, it wasn't, like, there wasn't mats like at Glory. Like, it was a cage. And you and a guy got in a cage, and you looked across from each other.
You go.
And the guy's like,
ding!
Go.
And you're like, oh.
And you did everything. Like, I knocked a couple dudes out in there, you know? But, like,
Bing.
whenever you did that, coach was like, yeah, good job. Like, there wasn't.
Oh, my gosh. They go,
Yeah.
then we got the pickaxes.
It's just like, all right, well, like, he's not going to spar for like a month now. It's like, well, sorry, man.
Has it been a month? It's been a week.
Yeah.
You're fine. Get in there.
Yeah. But those guys told me early on, they were like, you know, like, because my coach's brother and my other coach's son, like, he had gone to the UFC. I don't know. You probably don't know his name. Justin Lawrence. He fought Max Holloway. He fought AJ McKee in Bellator. He has like one of the most, like, badass head kick knockouts in UFC history.
Damn.
Yeah, and I met the guy a couple times, and like, but like, he'd been out of the league for a minute. But yeah, they just kind of told me, they're like, hey man, like, we see this in you. Like, we see, like, you could be the best. Like, you could be the best fighter to ever come out of this gym.
Well, and I bring that up because, like, if just from talking to you.
But, you know, not saying much. It's.
But, like, that's a moment. Trey validating it is a moment. Like, moments like that with good coaches switch that perspective. So even though you know it, like, deep down know it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, same with, like, if I ask Gomi a question or Steven or someone, it's like, I know what the answer is. Mm-hmm. But the asking is that validation to prove internally that I can do it.
Exactly.
Right?
And the key to your own success is realizing that you don't need the validation. You know, if you tell yourself that you're going to do something, like what I've got, like, my brother used to really get after me about it, because in high school especially, and even up till probably about a year ago, I really struggled with, I needed validation from everybody. I needed people to see what I was doing. I needed people to, you know, feel what I was going through. You know, I was just like a really different person than I am now. And now that I don't need validation from everybody, now that I don't need somebody, you know, to tell me what I'm doing. You know? Yeah, it's I'm doing what I love. I, you know, wear what I love. I, you know, go to school. I train.
Tell me about that, bro. For real. So you're doing school and you're doing this thing?
Yeah, it's a pain, bro. I train twice a day usually. And when I'm not training at Glory twice a day, I'm going on, you know, 5-6 mile runs. I mean, it's a busy life, and it's a life that not a lot of college students live. And, you know, I have a lot of friends that they'll be like, man, like, I wish I was, like, still an athlete, or I wish I was still doing something, or I wish I was doing what you're doing. And I'm like, no, you don't, because, you know, you are sitting here talking to me drunk as hell with a beer in your hand, with a pretty girl next to you, having a lot better time than I am, cutting weight.
Right.
But I'm doing it because I get so much more fulfillment out of competing and winning and working hard and suffering than I ever could with, you know, all the other stuff that I screwed around with in high school, that I took, that stuff blocked me out from doing what I truly love. And so if I have to, you know, sacrifice, you know, constantly partying and constantly going out and, you know, constantly getting drunk with my friends, then that's just what I have to do. And I have a really good friend group that understands that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, people don't understand.
You need to weed those people out though, too, because then they'll also drag you back
exactly.
down.
And people don't understand how, like, because being a fighter, we were talking about this earlier before the show started, most fighters like until they get to the high level, like you have to have something else going for you outside of fighting. You can't just train and be like, yeah, man, like I'm making 2 and 2 like as a pro to show and to win, and I can do that 3 or 4 times a year. It's like that's not enough money to live on.
Right.
You know, like you have to like until you get to that high level, you really like you got to do something else. So, you know, for me, like out of high school, like I got a lot of scholarships through like wrestling and you know, school and everything. So, you know, I'm not really paying for like I'm not paying what most kids are paying for college. I'm paying a lot less.
That's great.
So I, you know, get to go to school, and then as soon as school's over, I really my whole day is structured around my training. School, like I have 1 class a day. Like I'm not taking as many hours as many people are.
Right.
Still taking 13, but like it's not like the same workload as a lot of people.
Even then, that same dude who was like, "Oh, I want to be just like you." You're like, "No, you won't. You're right here in front of me doing this stupid shit."
Yeah.
You're not willing to sacrifice even just putting that down right now.
Exactly.
To like go do something right now.
Well, exactly. And it's like, yeah, man, some people just like, they just don't really like I have a lot of people close to me or that have been close to me, that they show like envy for what I'm doing, but they're also, you can also tell that it's just, there's a little bit of jealousy.
Oh yeah.
And it's not necessarily what I'm doing in MMA. It's what I'm doing with my whole life. It's what I'm doing with my like the way my perspective has changed since I've, you know, moved away from my hometowns, and you know, just the way I've changed. And like you said, like you've just like I've slowly had to just kind of like pluck those people out of my life.
Bink,
and it's not that I don't love them. It's not that I don't like care about them. It's not that I still wouldn't like, you know, answer the phone if they called me. It's just a matter of like, you have to get to a point where like with the life that I live, there isn't a lot of time for talking to 20 people. There's time to talk to a couple people, and the couple people you do talk to, you know,
it's like I'm texting you in between these classes. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
well, that and like, you know, like I try to keep myself surrounded with like-minded individuals. So like a lot of my best friends are wrestlers. A lot of my good friends are fighters. Like a lot of like I have a lot of, but I also have like, you know, some friends that don't do any sports at all. You know, it's like
some do podcasts.
Yeah, man, but like
over here,
the similarity between all my friends who are athletes and not athletes is the fact that they all have something that they do that is like making them a better person. And that's really what, you know, separates like a productive person from a not productive person. Is the productive person is working towards something, and the not productive person is just,
dude, that's so addicting.
Yeah.
Like if you like, so let's put it this way. So I went to, the thing I found was brotherhood, and even the small things give you the rush of not, I keep getting choked. I didn't get choked this time. Oh, he did a different thing, right? But even that little 2 seconds of not being choked like that, it goes, I did something right this time.
Yeah.
You know, I put into practice this thing I've been working on with Trey, and he asking questions and having Gomi show me and do this stuff, right? It didn't happen this time. And like those little practices you can take outside of here. And the minute, like I can weed them out. Like the minute I see someone, whether it's at work or like out there, and they go, like, let's use this for example, right? They come in here, they look at this, right? I post this on the internet, right? And I'm not big, but I will be, right? Like that's the way you think with MMA.
It's how you have to think,
right?
If you pursue anything, you know, you got to think.
Which means I'm willing to not eat dinner because I have to stay in here and not get Panda Express. You know, little sacrifices to big ones when it comes to financial things, right? Then they see how good it is, but they don't see the 99% of the requirement that got you in this place, that
the behind the
what
scenes
it costs.
Work, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then the minute you put it on the internet, and they're like, my phone went nuts. They're like, hey, I saw the thing, and it looks really. I'm like, cool, and then that's it.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many people like that used to maybe talk down on you or, you know, just do anything of that sort of nature, talk shit on you. Like, it's amazing how once you succeed, they try to act like they were there from the very beginning.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They just want to hop on board. And I was like, no. Like, and now with obviously being around you guys, I can just kick them out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care. Like, do you really think I'm going to be upset?
Yeah.
Like, if I tell you something, they're like, hey, I was there for you and this and that. I'm like, great, you weren't here for me for this. So, bink. Like,
Yeah.
it's that easy, man. And I think that when people get that out of their head that they have to keep these people around, there's other people that have that same mentality, that same, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's business, whether it's fighting, whether it's any kind of competition, right? If you find that group, like, and you know that you kind of fit in there and whatever puzzle piece you are in this big old circle, then, like, you have to be there. Like, you can't have anybody else except for this type of person, which is, like you said, willing to understand you.
Exactly.
This is my life. I have to live the way that I want, and I want to live it this way. And then if they're texting you like, hey, come out, and you're like, I can't, I'm at fight camp right now, and they just go, fuck this guy, that's selfish.
Mm-hmm.
They're selfish, unachieving people.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It's definitely frustrating. You know, it's nice having those people that used to kind of spit on you come up and kiss your ass, but it's also just a little bit of like,
I'm not gonna lie.
it's also just a little bit of like,
it feels good for about that long.
Yeah,
you're
and then you're just like, all right, I don't need this anymore. Like, the validation I need is from A, myself, but B, from the people that like are around me. And
well, like I said, you're young, man. Like you're doing everything right. You have the mentality, you have the work ethic, and you definitely have the athleticism. I've seen it, right?
Yeah.
In person. I've seen it on I've seen it on TV, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're going to go wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
I like, for a fact, just by the way that like your eyes, like they're looking at me, we're locked into this thing. I just see like whatever you want, it's there. Like, so if UFC's your goal, that's your goal. If it's just to fight professionally, even get paid as a professional, you know what I'm saying? Whatever that is. And I think it's just like a platform for you. It's just like, this is this level, this is that level.
I have so many different goals, bro. It's broken down into so many, like, so for right now, like, what I like, my goal right now is to walk through this guy on Friday.
Oh, you so will.
Yeah, it's my goal. My goal right now is to walk through this guy on Friday, and you know, I'm definitely not taking him lightly. He was also a college wrestler. He's quite a bit older than I am, so you know, I'm expecting we could see a dogfight, and you know, I'll welcome that, man. Like,
right.
I thrive in that kind of stuff.
You don't look like someone who'd be like, oh, it's a dog fight. You'd be like, it's a fucking dog fight.
Exactly. It's my time. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm gonna, you know, but I really am predicting, you know, I feel like my game plan, I you know, all the game plan you can have for a guy with one fight, but like,
still a game plan.
Yeah, I still have, like you said, I've taken notes. I've analyzed everything. I have a friend who did a whole YouTube breakdown on the way this guy fights and his traits and his
he watched the
fight, broke it down, told me where what he saw, and he's actually he's a registered like boxing judge.
Oh, okay.
So he knows what he's talking about. Like,
sure.
he's really good at analyzing everything. So like, with the help of that, with the help of, you know, Jeff and Trey, like all my coaches, I just feel like I'm really prepared for everything this guy's gonna have, and the way that I compete with some of the guys who are some of the best in the entire country and the best in the Midwest. Like, I feel like I'm surrounded by too many good individuals and too many, you know, I'm surrounded by such a good team.
Yeah, these mentors too, like you said.
Exactly.
All these coaches.
Well, mentors, sparring partners, all the guys, man. Like, our whole room, it's just a bunch of savages, and we love to get after it. And seeing how far our room has progressed just in the year that I've been there, it's really cool to see, because like, I've been in really competitive rooms before, and you'll see everybody get better, but a lot of times you'll see like a lot of guys get better at a faster pace. But like, it seems like our room, a lot of us are very like-minded individuals, and you know, we're very similar with our you know, whether a lot of us have wrestling backgrounds or a lot of us are just, you know, born athletes. Like, we have a really good team and a room of individuals who are constantly getting better.
Right.
And sometimes it makes you question yourself. You know, you go home and you're like, man, like that round was a little closer than I may have liked it to have been. Whereas like a couple months ago, it was not as close, and I was.
Right.
But then you got to think like, man, like I'm not the only one in here that's getting better. You know,
Right.
everybody else is getting better.
Well, and it's kind of like if I had like dials, like switches that go up and down. It's like there's outliers at times, and then but they also go like this. They reach down and they pull you up to. If there's a different level discrepancy, they'll make sure that you get the work that you need to be the same progression.
Well, exactly, and that's that's something that all experienced martial artists should keep in mind. Is I go into a round, and if I've not seen the guy in the gym before, I always ask, "Hey man, like how long have you been doing this?"
Yeah.
They tell me like, "Oh, it's like my first time," or "Oh, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks," or "Oh, I've been doing this for a couple of months," or a couple of years. It's always like how I spar with them is always different.
Right.
If some of the guys on the fight team want to maybe turn it up one day and I have a fight coming up, then yeah. But, like, our gym does also a very good job of, like, keeping it reined in. And, like, we get really good work and I have really good sparring rounds. But we spar every day, which is not something that every gym does.
Right.
So
it gets you very and also that's because they can't control what you just said, right? Trey has it reined in. Everyone has it reined in. And if you don't, you have to deal with him.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he'll hook you up.
Yeah,
like,
no. If you're being a bully, like you'll have to answer to one of the high level guys in there, and if you have to answer to one of us, like,
they're like, oh, you're going with me next round. They're like, well, okay, cool, whatever, and then it's not good. But like I said, that's the only way that it would be allowed to like spar every day is like. You have that conversation.
It will like Trey, our coach, and Gomi. They both do just a fantastic job of just being very vigilant.
Yeah.
And watching it.
Gomi said that last class. He's like, "Hey, remember."
Yeah, exactly. He's always like, "Hey guys, like remember, light to the head.
Right.
If you want to hit the body as hard as you want. Kick the legs off somebody. Like."
Well, that also makes you better. Like if the guy goes, "Oh, I've been doing it for." 6 months, you're like, okay, that's half of how long I've been here, right? Let's see, and then you can kind of feed it out. So like, but then in my mind, if I'm sparring with this person, now 2-3 times they don't check my leg kick.
Exactly.
Great, I'm gonna get 10. I'm gonna try and get 10 until he realizes.
Well, sometimes what I'll do with like guys that maybe aren't as experienced as I do, and maybe like don't have the capabilities to have like a competitive round with me, I'll work just like certain combinations, and I'll be like, okay, like I'm gonna hit this, so this here, and I'm gonna hit this here, because I can't necessarily like with a guy like a freak like Gomi or somebody, I can't be like, all right, man, I'm gonna hit the split 2 combination here,
and then he goes split 2,
and it's like no split 2, yeah, all right, I'm gonna uppercut you.
I read your mind.
Yeah, like I saw that before you thought of it, bro, and it's
then
like,
bink, bink,
yep,
bink.
exactly.
Oh shit, how'd that happen?
Exactly, like you can't do that with really high level guys. So, but that's why like I love our gym is because there's so many different levels and everybody's constantly progressing because it's such a good atmosphere and it's such a good environment, and like man, it's like therapy for me because it's like at the end of the day after I'm been working and after I've been doing school and I'm just like I'm done, like I do not want to do anything, and it sometimes it's hard for me to pick myself up and go to the gym, but every time I'm there it's just like okay.
But then get in then you
no
get into
I'm saying like it's a sigh of relief. It's
it's relief.
Okay, like
I'm home,
I'm here, like I'm here, like then I can, it's the one time a day that I don't think about anything else.
Right.
It's the one time a day where I can just like go in there with no matter what's on my mind and I can not think about it.
Right. It's very therapeutic. And I think that's also just because of the sheer culture that's been crafted. But like I said, the fact that you're putting in the work to be a technician, right? And then you have so if I just see that was the notebook, right? Yeah. You're taking the time. Yes. The second part was that you have the mentality that even people who are even at pro levels don't have that. You know, and you're young. Like, dude, I'm 6 years your elder. like young, man. And it looks as like everyone that comes in this room and they sit down and we have a discussion, we talk, it's the same thing. It's like, dude, I can't see what the future is for you. But whatever it is, it's bright. If that's the UFC, it's the UFC. If that's a champion in the UFC, it's a champion in the UFC. Like, it's undeniable. Like, and I think you can go as far as you want. I really do. And
Well,
this is your
sky's
second
the
fight.
limit, bro. Yeah, sky's the limit. And you know, yeah, I'm just blessed to be, put in this position to where I, have the capabilities to, compete and do what I love and do it at a high level and continue to get better and be surrounded by savages that, make me better. Because I've been in rooms where there weren't savages to make me better. And I felt like I may have felt like the king, but,
it's still new in your heart. You're like, this is just false satisfaction.
And then you go to a room like I'm in now, and you're like, okay, like I'm not the only talented guy in here anymore. Like there's a bunch of us.
There's other sharks in here.
Yeah, there's other sharks. There's other guys that want it just as much as I do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it only cultivates greatness, and I think you've got it, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. I really do. It took a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
It took a lot of work to just be able to get myself to this spot mentally, especially.
Right.
But it was all worth it. I don't regret any of it. I don't regret the losses I've taken. I don't regret,
the people you've had to get out.
Cut out. I don't regret any of that because everything I did has led me to sitting right here, and I have a fight lined up in a couple days in front of thousands of people, and it's like, man, like
I wouldn't trade this moment for the world, Like
it's like it's like being like, I mean, I remember being like a little kid and like thinking like, man, like I just dreamed of stuff like this, man, like it's
way to dream it into reality.
It's exactly, but that's what it is, man. Like a manifestation, it's real. If you tell yourself you're gonna do something and you work hard and you don't let anything get to you and you keep working for it, eventually something good's gonna come your way.
Yes.
And it might not be the thing you're expecting at first.
Mm-hmm.
But hard work doesn't go unnoticed. Something will always come of it. And I was in a stage for a while where I didn't understand that, but once I did, my life did a 180, changed for the better.
Good direction. It went straight up. It went straight skyrocket.
And like I get told a lot, is that a lot, like you said, a lot of 20-year-olds, like they don't think how I think, but it's because I like had a trial and error era of my life where I screwed up. And I did all the things that most kids are doing at 20 years of age whenever I was 14 or 15.
Right.
You
were just early on it.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
were able to recognize that.
Exactly. And I just loved to like have what I thought was fun at the time, And I'm glad that I went through all that at a young age because after I got out of that, I had so much clarity. And I have such a clarity of purpose right now.
Yeah.
And
I can feel it.
Yeah, and like you wouldn't
see it.
like I wouldn't trade that for the world, man. Like it doesn't matter like if I don't make a dime off of fighting for my entire life, like I just love to do it, man. I just love to step in the cage, like that's just that feeling. Like everybody asks me like, oh, like you excited for your fight, and every time I tell them, I'm just like, man, I wish it was tonight.
Right. Yeah.
Like I wish I was stepping in that cage right now.
You're like I'm living my dream now.
It's gonna be hard for me not to have a smile on my face when I'm walking out because it's just like, I wouldn't trade these moments for any other life, man. I really wouldn't, because sometimes it's hard to tell yourself that. Sometimes I see videos on my Snapchat or whatever of some of my best friends all hanging out and they're at a bar in Colombia or whatever, living the time of their lives, and I'm sitting in my apartment or whatever eating chicken and rice and water and just having to go to bed early because I have practice tomorrow morning. And it's at those times it's hard to really see 100% of why I'm doing this, but then it's like weeks like this where I'm just in such a good mood, so good spirited, so ready. I know I've cut no corners in this camp. I've treated this camp like I've been a pro.
Dude, I'm smiling right now as you're talking because I'm like, I don't even know the age. I'm just like, this dude, man. I'm glad I know this guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I hope so. I know so. I don't hope so. I know what I'm going to go in and do. And I know that I'm going to execute my game plan. And I know that I have all the tools to get me to where I need to get. But like I said, I have so many goals. First goal first and foremost is getting through this kid, and then after that I can dream again. But right now, it's just.
Well, you know what? Here's this. I'm setting this up. So all this equipment, we're gonna do a fight companion. So we're gonna watch it in here. I'm gonna have food. I'm gonna have drinks. You wanna have a good time? Shit, we'll get Mason in here.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what Mason told me? He has an
Me and
episode
Mason
this
are
week.
good buddies. Yeah.
Bro, he walked in. He goes, "Listen, we're gonna have a bottle." I go, "On camera?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna have the belt." I was, "You can have the other one, and we'll wear it, put sunglasses on." And I'm like, "Okay, so it's just
I'm
fun."
telling you, man. Mason cracks me up. He is he's a funny dude. I really like having that guy around the gym. He's a savage.
Oh,
he's
he
a
is,
savage.
man.
He's a savage, and he brings that, will like want to work out of me, and I know everybody else. So, like seeing him, he's actually lined up for 2 titles right now. I don't know if you know that. He's lined up for the 185 belt the night that I'm fighting. And then he's lined up for the welterweight belt. I think it's in either late January or early February.
Holy shit.
So, yeah, man, he's the man. And he told me today, he's like, and this isn't what I expect out of him. I expected him to, because I was asking him, I was like, man, you want to come out afterwards with us? Because I haven't had any fast food, a drink in probably 2 months. So, like, I'm just ready to let loose.
Right.
And just enjoy.
Celebrate the moment.
Just celebrate the moment, man. And, he was like, man, I might just come back for jiu-jitsu on Saturday and just throw the belt on the mat. And I was like,
oh, you savage.
I was like, that's what I'll do whenever I win my first belt. I'm just going to come in the next day like it was nothing. Just.
Well, listen, Ollie, I have to pee. That's so bad.
Go
right
ahead,
now.
brother.
But
yeah.
I appreciate you coming here. I'm glad that we can give you this platform. And I'm glad that you get to share like those deep thoughts with these people that are probably watching it because they, want to be like you. I saw that clip on Instagram, you know? And you would never know if someone's watching it, but I know for a fact that the message is going to go out and it's going to resonate with a lot more people than you think.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I really hope so.
We'll get you right back in here after you knock this kid out, right?
Yes.
Because what'd you say? We know.
We know. I don't hope. I know.
We know.
I know.
But, Ollie, I thank you, man.
Dude, thanks you so much. I really appreciate this, brother. I really appreciate this. This is
Wait till it goes live, buddy.
Yeah, man.
All right. Thank you all.